Hey everyone, my name is Sean, and today I want to kind of talk about why I'm a bit disappointed with the Synchro Festival. There's a lot of things that I think could have been done better by Konami here, and a lot of it has to do with the ban list. Now, before I was even I made this video, I actually made a ban list reaction video talking about what I wanted to see on the list, and after making that video, I realized that this basically was the same list as the XYZ Festival with a couple of cards put in here or there because in response to previous things. So what I'm talking about there is they did get rid of a lot of burn cards like Bad Reactions to Samochi and Dark Nurse Reficule, wherever she is. She's a bit further. There she is. Because they want to stop burn. They banned DD Dynamite. That card can go fuck off for all I care. And most notably, they banned things like Suicide Strategy, so people can't grind the event by deliberately losing too quick. But what I thought really needed to happen on this list is we need to see cards come off the list that would help synchro-based strategies and people's enjoyment of the synchro-based strategies, and also put some cards on that really would help, would really hinder those strategies that are widely available in the game. And you can see them on the screen right now. There are a lot of hand traps and board breaker cards in the game right now that really hurt synchro-based decks. Things like Draw a Lot Bird, Nibiru the Primal Being, Maxi, Kaijus, Lava Golem Spear Mode, Forbidden Droplets, Dark Ruler No More, and then there's also many other cards, evenly matched and so on. Put what you want on the list, Lightning Storm and so on. And none of these cards were touched whatsoever. What Konami did do, however, which made me laugh, was they put on a bunch of cards that are anti-synchro, but we won't be able to use for this event. So things like Gundari, Synchro Control, Tuner Scheme, Memory Crush King, Intercept Wave. They put cards like these on the list, and I think Konami kind of has this a little bit backwards. Allow me to illustrate. Gundari is a card that says if this card battles a Synchro monster, return both monsters to the owner's hand at the start of the damage step. Okay, so it's a card that is anti-synchro. Fine. But then you still have in the game, legal to play, Neospatian Grandmole. It does the same thing. It does the same job, if not better, because it's not only tied and locked in for synchro cards only. But let's have a look at another one. We have Tuner's Scheme. Activate only when a synchro monster is special summoned to the opponent's side of the field. Take control of that synchro monster. Okay, fine. You wanted to get rid of that. Okay. Well, what about Crackdown? Trap card. Target one face-up monster your opponent controls. Take control of that monster. It does the same thing. It's the same type of card, but one card is legal and way better and more likely to be played, whereas a card that's less likely to be played got banned. It doesn't make sense to me. In fact, I don't think Konami should be banning these cards at all. I think these cards should be absolutely legal to play because an event like this is the only time we're going to play a card like these. When else are we going to throw in a card like Memory Crush King? Or when else are we going to try and rip out a card like Soundproofed? This is another one that made me laugh. This card can only be activated at the start of main phase 1, Cold Wave, okay. And only if you control no synchro monsters. Neither player can special summon a synchro monster until the end of your opponent's next end phase. Fine, okay. Anti-synchro card, you don't want people playing that, fine. There's nothing else in the game though that kind of does a similar job, is there? Nothing, I can't think of anything at all. Nope, just no other cards that stop people from summoning out synchro monsters from their deck. What am I gonna do? Oh, just no idea. What is Konami thinking? What are you thinking? It's almost like, I don't know. Do you know what I think really happened? I think Konami just did Control F, Synchro, and looked for cards that were anti-synchro and just banned them. I just, literally what I think they did. I don't think anybody put any thought of what is going to hurt synchro-based strategies. In addition, I really would have liked to see certain cards come off the ban list. I said this already, that would help it. This is a synchro-based festival and we can't play Glow Up Bloom, Bulb. Glow Up Bloom is another card that's legal, but Glow Up Bulb is one of the best tuners in the game for synchro-based decks and makes so many synchro-based strategies more viable because it's a very powerful and easy to use card. A deck that would have used this really well is a card that got support recently, and that's the Defleur archetype that got Baron Defleur and Sorge Defleur in the recent things. Sorge Defleur could maybe search this out, but nope, it's still on the ban list. Things like trying to find it. I wish we could actually filter this. That's another problem with this ban list. But another thing that wasn't touched at all is Black Wings Steam the Cloak. I bet there are tons of people that want to play Black Wings for this event. It's a Synchro Festival, and yet one of their most powerful cards, Steam the Cloak, and then you've got Gofu, wherever that is on the list, much further down, I believe. That is also not legal. Now, I understand why you wouldn't want to have these cards in the game naturally, normally, because things like Steam the Cloak and things like Gofu makes Ultimate Zolkin really easy. Steam the Cloak makes things like Christian Hauki Firebacks easy. But then there's no Hauki Firebacks anyway, so who cares? It's a Synchro-based festival. Let's let people have fun with it. Let people play these cards that are going to really help out their Synchro-based decks. So yeah, I'm really, really disappointed by the ban list. Now, there were some good things. Somewhere on this list, Cyber Angel Ben 10 got banned, and that's good because Cyber Angels are still very powerful, because even though they banned Drytron and they banned one of the banned one Drytron card, and they banned the Herald of Ultimateness and Herald of Perfection, you can still play ritual-based archetypes in a Synchro Festival. So yeah, I think getting rid of Ben 10 was good, and they limited Megalith Fool, which again doesn't really hurt the deck that much. You can still play Megalith very, very well in this format, but because Block Dragon is available to you still, but at least it's down to 1, so it's not as crazy, but Megaliths are going to be fine for the event. And so, in a nutshell, I felt like this ban list didn't do enough to protect Synchro-based strategies and promote those ones which maybe aren't as popular. Before I even did all this video, I was already researching things into the event, and I was trying to look at different types of decks that people might want to play. And one archetype that I thought might be really fun to play and see come back is Guardians. Guardians are a very unique Synchro-based archetype, but most importantly, their budget. Most of their cards are normal or rares, and they're very, very cheap. And so if you're not someone who really cares about Synchro strategies, but you want to play the event with a Synchro deck, this would have been a really good option for you. However, this deck is very, very vulnerable to a lot of hand traps. It loses to Draw, it loses to Nibiru, it loses to Maxi, and it can't really afford to play things like Crossout Designator or Call by the Grave, because it has to draw into more Guardians every time you use their effect, so you want Guardian cards all the way through. So yeah, it's going to struggle. I think people would maybe still try to play it, but I wouldn't necessarily go out my way to craft these cards, because yeah, there's so many counters to it. In addition, Black Wings, as I've mentioned, Black Wings are probably going to be played in the event. They're probably still going to be very viable, but there's a lot of things that can work against Black Wings, and so without all these other link extenders, they're going to have to find a way to play through them with just Synchro cards. Similarly, I think an even more important example is Synchron, especially because Stardust Majestic whatever Dragon was just released. Shooting Majestic Star Dragon was just released, and I think a lot of people are going to want to play this deck, but again, this deck is very, very vulnerable to hand traps. And yeah, it can play counters like Call by the Grave, but then there's so many ways to counter it. You can counter with Impermanence, you can counter with Maxi, Draw, again, you can break the board with so many different cards, and I think the deck might struggle. There are also other rogue strategies which you can play just fine. You can play Witchcrafters just fine. So if you're looking for a non-Synchro based strategy that you want to try, they don't need an extra deck really, to be honest with you. In fact, they just use it to banish cards really. So you could play a deck like this just fine. Dangers weren't touched at all, so while Danger Sekka might not be viable too much, Danger, because they use lots of rank 8s, and obviously you can't play them, you can still play something like Danger Dark World, although both of those lists are very, very expensive. Danger Dark World has a lot of super rares, and Danger Sekka has so many ultra rares. It's a very, very expensive deck to play. So, you know, if you want to go that way, you can. I think there are going to be two most dominant decks for this format, and I think that's kind of disappointing in a way that other decks weren't given a chance to kind of power creep up to them. And it's going to be Virtual World and Emancipator. I think Virtual World will be second for this format, because if a lot of people are playing a lot of things like Draw, then they're going to need to be ready to counter that. So, but I think they will still do very, very well. But then there's also Emancipator, which can play through things like Draw quite easily, because Emancipator excavates and summons to the field directly. It doesn't really add to hand. And then it has natural counters like Kawaki Meru Guardian that they could use as well to counter things like Nibiru and such. So, Yeah, I'm very, very disappointed by the festival. I think if you've got an Emancipator deck and you've got a Virtual World deck, you're going to laugh. You're going to be like, yeah, I've got a deck. I'm ready for it. If you haven't got a deck, is it even worth investing in one when they didn't really do a lot to protect synchros? But that's just my thought. That's just kind of what I feel. What do you guys think? Let me know down in the comments down below. Take care.